Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Free to Think. I'm Cody.
This is Jacob, coming to you from the other side of the table.
That's right. There's two sides to a table. Always.
Actually, there's like six.
Gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
It's a rectangular prism,
Shoot.
cuboid.
My mind just exploded. Well, you been watching the World Cup? I mean, you got a USA t-shirt on.
No, I haven't watched the World Cup. I'm not a sports guy.
You're not a sports ball man?
Nope.
Well,
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Who are you rooting for?
Well, I was going for USA until they got beat out by Belgium a couple days ago.
I did hear about that. Seemed like it was a pretty crushing defeat.
It was 4-1. It was sad. We just couldn't hang with them. Like, they were just a better team than us. So I love soccer. I love watching soccer.
Were they just having a good moment, or are they actually truly better?
Man, they just flow. The ball just from player to player. They know where each other's at, even though they're behind them. And USA's just not on that level. So
Just teamsmanship.
yeah, and I've had this debate several times lately as to why USA can't hang with the European and South American teams. Mind you, the only teams to have ever won the World Cup are either from Europe or South America. Every single time. No other team in any other continent has ever won the World Cup. So
Interesting.
So why? I mean, is it cultural? Is it just they grow up that way? I mean, one of my feelings is that America is so diluted with so many sports that a lot of our top athletes, you don't get a concentration of top athletes in any single sport. Basketball, football, hockey, soccer, all those things. Whereas in South America, you've got basically one sport. They have other sports. They've got the Olympics. They have some dilution there, but not to the point that America does, where
As far as professional sports.
whereas in Europe and South America, the top athletes, the most supreme athletes are in soccer, whereas we have such a dilution here in the States. And I think that's part of it. That's not the entire answer. That's part of it. The other part is that culture from youth, we just don't raise the same type of soccer player for the love of the game. I think we're getting there, but we've got a ways to go because it's just not a fluid game from the U.S.
You're a big soccer guy from way back.
Oh, yeah. I played soccer in high school and college, and I love the game.
Didn't you even play in elementary school in the fire league?
Oh, yeah. I played all the way from, I think it was 4 or 5 years old. And when you see just a fluid game of the ball being passed around and people just know where they're at and they have such mastery and control over the ball, it's a fun game to watch. It's
like an orchestra.
It is, but when it's not moving and there's no scoring, it's a painful game to watch. Like a 0-0 defensive match is just a struggle to watch. And there's been a couple of those, but then there's been some high-scoring games as well. So
I've heard some racist allegations levied against Argentina.
I haven't heard this.
Oh, and that's literally all I know.
Yeah, you can get...
There's a guy at work who is ardently anti-Argentina, which is like an alliteration.
Yeah. There's a lot of controversy around Argentina. I mean, they were playing Egypt this last week, and they were down 2-0. Egypt scored their second goal, but they went back, and they do this thing called VAR, which is when they go back and review a play. But there was an allegation of a foul that had happened literally like 30 seconds before, which is a long time in soccer. Back in the day, if it didn't get called, it didn't get called. But now they go back and they review it. They went back and reviewed it, and it got overturned, so it was only 1-0. Well, then Egypt scored another goal, but then Argentina came back and scored 3 goals. It was 3-2 at the end of the game. And there's some accusations of, well, FIFA has to have Lionel Messi, who is the world's superstar in soccer, who is on Argentina. They have to have him in close to the finals as possible, so they'll do anything they can to get him there. So there's some allegations, conspiracies that FIFA had something to do with that overturned call against Egypt. But
also, it seems like there was a game between, can't remember who, one of them was France, but all 5 referees were from Argentina. So
yeah,
it's like if they're randomly choosing where their referees are from, that seems pretty statistically impossible.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that FIFA has to think about, and I'm going to give FIFA the benefit of the doubt. Like, they want their process to be objective. They want people to trust the process, because if people don't trust the outcomes, I mean, at the end of the day, if it is just about money, you're going to start to see some things. You're going to see some refs bought off, and you're going to see some things. But you can end the benefit of the doubt. They want the true winner, and I think a Cinderella story upset is a beautiful thing. That's why people watch. Like, if you never have any Cinderella upsets, that's why I was upset yesterday, because Morocco lost to France. Morocco was the last non-European, non-South American team in the tournament.
Oh.
And they were ranked, I think, sixth or seventh. I think they were seventh. I want to get away from that 6-7 stuff, so just seventh. They were.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, they were ranked seventh. So I was, but France is a good team, man. I think they beat them 2-0. But Morocco was also a good team. So I went down with my buddies in Atlanta, and we got to watch Morocco in person. So that was a bucket lister.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyways, that's the World Cup. My team is currently going to be Spain now. Spain is really good. They haven't been scored on at all. As you know, Atlanta was a missionary associate in Spain for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So we like Spain. I also like Argentina. Messi's just a cool guy. He's not Cristiano Ronaldo, who just kind of like desires the limelight and who is like a typical superstar. Lionel Messi's very modest.
Less of a diva.
He is, and he's committed. He won't put his arm around women when they come up to get a picture with him, because he respects and honors his wife so much. He's just a down-to-earth human being, but he is like we talk about, U.S. superstars like Tom Brady and stuff like that. Lionel Messi is a global superstar. Like, probably the most known name on the face of the planet is Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. But we're talking about billion-dollar players, not $100 million players. I mean, these guys are next level.
All right. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. So, again, it's a global sport. It's not so much in the United States, but you see some of these soccer stars, and most soccer stars that are on YouTube have 50 to 100 million followers on YouTube, because it's a global.
Oh, yeah.
It's a global deal.
Pretty much every country on earth
Yeah.
loves soccer.
Love soccer, and it's a country thing too. Like, when we went to the Haiti-Morocco game, Haiti had never scored a goal in the World Cup ever, and they scored the first goal. And the Haitian supporters, they went crazy. They went nuts. I loved it, and we were around a bunch of them, and we were hugging them, and they were just going crazy. And then Morocco tied it up, and then Haiti scored another goal, and the place went absolutely nuts.
Nice.
It was fun to watch. These people, this is their only sport. This is their one thing that happens every 4 years. Rarely do people even make it into the World Cup, because there's qualifying rounds. So the fact that they were there, they were on the dance floor, they scored a goal. I mean, it was
on
cool.
a world stage.
On a world stage, it was pretty cool to see and witness.
Right on.
So yeah, World Cup. We're in this round of 8 now. In the quarterfinals. We're in the quarterfinals.
Cool.
Yeah, I know that excites you.
I wish I could. I don't know. It's fun to hear people that are genuinely excited about stuff, but I get just turned off by this obsession with football. So
Yeah, I hear you.
it's okay.
I got turned off a few years ago when it got very political.
Yeah.
I mean, sports is supposed to be non-political. And when sports start delving into political or the politics of things of the day, it annoys me.
Yeah.
I don't care which side it's delving into. It's like, sports should be one of those things where your neighbor of the opposite persuasion, you guys can get together and watch a sports ball game, regardless of what flavor it is, and enjoy yourselves and get to know each other. And, it's a good old American pastime. It's the
Should be
unifier.
the game.
Yeah, it should be about the game, not politics. But when they started interjecting like BLM, Black Lives Matter politics back in 2020, 2021,
Yeah.
I tuned out for a while. Like,
Or even the Colin Kaepernick.
yeah,
all
it was
that
just like, it was all about
nonsense.
politics. Who's gonna kneel for the flag? Who's not gonna kneel for the flag? And then that's what we're talking about half the game, instead of just watching the game and enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it was gross. I mean, they've got away from it, which is nice. And kind of gotten back to sports, which the whole of America. I mean, it's just the fringe that wants to see that stuff, every day, all day.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, you get it somewhat in Hollywood too, right? Hollywood's always trying to push a certain message
Oh yeah.
in their movies, but
Yeah.
for the most part, it's not like they were in sports.
I don't know. I think the Hollywood message is always it's there.
It's just
A
always
lot of
there.
times it's in your face. I mean, for a long time, the Hollywood, whatever message they were trying to push was there, but they were able to do it in a subtle storytelling way.
Subliminally.
But Hollywood has lost all subtlety.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, people are just like, oh.
Well, it makes you appreciate a film that comes out that is not trying to push a message.
Speaking of that, watch Project Hail Mary
Yeah.
with my son. It was a good movie because it just, what you just said, right? The point of the movie was the movie. The point of the movie wasn't to, put a message out there. And another point of the movie was just like, yeah, humanity's good. Humanity is worth saving.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Fighting for.
imagine that. Novel
Yeah.
concept. So
I like
I really enjoyed Project Hail Mary. It was great.
Ryan Gosling. He's one of my favorite actors right now.
Man, he's got some range.
He
you
does.
know? I mean, he was kind of, Ryan Reynolds-ish, humor.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, there were some poignant moments in that movie. So,
Yeah.
Plus, did you ever see him in Blade Runner 2049?
I haven't.
Yeah, he's good in that. I enjoyed that movie also.
He does have some range, unlike Ryan Reynolds, who seems like he plays the exact same. And no, don't get me wrong. I love some of the movies that Ryan Reynolds plays.
Oh
in.
yeah, I mean when he's in that character and that character works in the movie, it's great.
It's
a
good.
great
It's
time.
funny.
Yeah.
But it's like, does he have another
Ryan
range?
Reynolds as Ryan Reynolds.
Exactly.
Yep.
He doesn't have a lot of range though.
No, but that's all right.
It's okay. When it
Is who he
fits,
is.
when it works, it works. You know?
I enjoy the Mint Mobile commercials. They're funny. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can put your message into any sort of storytelling form, but if you just do it on the nose, everybody's going to walk away,
You're right.
except for the people who ardently agree with it, and they're going to love it.
And they're going to scream and hoot and holler.
Yeah.
That's why I think Top Gun Maverick was just a good old American movie.
Yeah.
You know, America's good. It's worth fighting for. It's,
Yeah.
we celebrate, celebrate expertise. We celebrate the best of the best, and we honor them, especially those who are willing to sacrifice. And
Yeah.
just raw.
I mean, that's kind of like what it was with the 250, right?
Yeah.
Just like you don't have to play the game of saying you love America, but then qualifying it with like 48 statements of why America is actually terrible. It's like, no, you can just say, I love America because America is great. And you don't have to play the game,
We're really,
You know what I mean by the game?
Oh, yeah.
Where you have to navigate.
Well, it's like we're really good at looking with extreme judgment at the past
Mm-hmm.
and saying, look how bad they were. Look how much they got it wrong without understanding any context, without understanding the culture, without understanding where they came from, how they were born and raised, and not noticing progress.
Mm-hmm.
I know we like to look back, not we, but there are some who look back at the founding and say, what a bunch of evil dudes who owned slaves, this and that. When in reality, many of them thought it was an evil, even though some of them may have owned slaves. Many of them freed their own slaves. And then they set up this constitution that would eventually lead to the abolition of slavery, that would eventually lead to people of all race, color, gender voting and participating in democracy. So within their context, within their time to overcome that, to do something like that is notable. Were they perfect? By no means. Are we perfect today? No, I think we'll look back with extreme judgment on some of the stuff we're doing today. Social media.
With more extreme judgment.
Probably more extreme judgment. But it's like we sit on such a high horse sometimes and look back on the past in extreme judgment and not recognizing, I guarantee you, some of the people with the most judgment on the past, if they were in the past, 16, 17 times, they'd probably own slaves.
Yeah,
Probably be participating in some of the same activity that they're judging.
Yeah. And I think there's a lack of humility just to say that. I think C.S. Lewis called it chronological snobbery, just to assume that we're in an enlightened state, our minds are better, our ways and means and systems are better, when in reality, the way that they thought back then, I mean, if you look at the great thinkers in history, their minds were just so much, I don't know, what am I trying to say here? They were better thinkers. Like Aristotle was thinking of sort of high-minded philosophical stuff.
Yeah.
2,500 years ago, 2,300 years ago. It's just people today think because we
have technology.
have technology.
We're better thinkers.
We're better thinkers when it's actually quite the opposite.
It is.
Yeah.
Well,
Because their greatness came out of a lack. It came out of struggle. Whatever greatness we derive comes out of ease and comfort, and we think it's something worth celebrating.
Well, and they were in part better thinkers because they were forced to memorize. We have information at the touch of a button. You ask me a question, I can pull it up on Google, I can pull it up on AI and get some quick answers. And so there's no forcing mechanism for me to memorize or to understanding something deeply and be able to process all that stuff at the same time. Whereas these guys, they memorize entire sections of text of the Bible, you name it, and they were just able to process better.
Well, and think about this. I mean, some people that you wouldn't really necessarily categorize as high-minded thinkers would be the mountain men and the cowboys and the manifest destiny people, the westward expansion of the U.S.
Sure.
But imagine, because the U.S. right now is bigger than the Roman Empire at its greatest extent, and they had to travel across with no maps, and the maps they did have were wildly inaccurate. So they had to memorize landforms, and they had to memorize how the land was. And so the map that they had was entirely in their mind. And yet they were able to navigate and travel and do all these things, at horse speed.
Yeah.
But imagine that. Imagine trying to get across the continental United States with nothing more than your recollection of when you did it last time.
Yeah.
I mean, we have GPS, we have satellites, we have atlases, all these things, highly accurate, and we still get lost. And these people were like, I'm trying to find, California from Missouri.
Yeah.
And all I have is a compass and my drive to get across this place. So, yeah.
Yeah, if I got dropped in a place without my phone, I'd be lost.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s when we traveled out to California, my dad would give me the map, and you'd have to figure out your way on a map.
Yep.
Which is much more than they had back in the day, but
yeah.
Nonetheless.
Plus the roads are always just, you follow the line on the map, you follow the line on the road.
Yeah, and you're estimating when your turn's going to be, and you're trying to find mile markers, and hey, I think your turn's here in the next 5 to 10 miles, so you're constantly looking for your turn.
Yep.
Whereas
these guys had to memorize like the shape of that mountain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that. Yeah.
You mark
Whatever
it down,
mountain.
and
And it's like last time I went north of that mountain, but it was not passable, so I have to go south this time. And it's amazing to think.
Yeah.
What human greatness is born out of this struggle.
It is, man. So when we have no struggle, when kids are born with no struggle, or we try to avoid the struggle.
Yeah, I think human potential is greatly wasted.
Yeah.
What did I say? Human potential? I tried to do a spoonerism or something there. But, greatness. That's what I said. Greatness is wasted, which is kind of poetic. Sorry, I diverged.
That's good.
So I got stung on the face by a wasp yesterday. That was fun.
Enjoyable, huh?
No, it wasn't. It was terrifying because I was actually underneath my disc, because I'm taking the bearings off.
Yeah.
And it started buzzing around me, and it's like I was kind of trapped under there. And then, he got me right on the nose. Oh, man.
You're not allergic, are you?
Apparently not, because I don't think he stung me. I think he actually bit me, but it hurt for a while, but it didn't, swell up or anything.
A wasp can bite?
Yeah, they can bite and sting.
Can bees bite and sting?
I don't know. I don't think bees bite because they have the proboscis, but wasps are predators, so they bite and attack.
Dang, I didn't know that. Do wasps die if they sting?
No, they can just keep on stinging.
Those things are nasty.
Yeah, they are.
Do they provide any value to humanity?
They do. They eat like aphids and stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a double-edged sword, a double-edged stinger, if you will, because they eat like aphids and other pests and stuff like that, but also they're just ill-tempered.
They're pesky.
Yeah.
I don't like those bees that produce that liquid gold.
Oh, man. That are just kind of fuzzy and they're fun to take pictures of.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Wasps are just like, you mess with me, you get the stinger.
Yeah.
Or the mandibles.
Wasps make you want to fight. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that fight or flight. Some people just run. I'm like, come on, buddy, bring it on.
Well, I didn't run because I was obviously trapped, but
You rolled?
I skittered, scampered, I don't know,
Yeah.
shuffled to get out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I came back with some wasp spray and dealt with them. So they did not survive the encounter.
That's good.
So but I didn't cry. Well, maybe a little bit.
I hate getting stung.
Oh, I do too. Would you rather be stung or shocked with electricity?
Well, I guess it depends on how many volts of electricity you're getting shocked with, but
I guess that's true. A 9-volt battery doesn't hurt too much.
no, it doesn't.
But like wall voltage, 110 AC.
I mean, it'll shock you, but it's not that bad. I think I'd rather get stung.
I would too.
Electricity scares me because
I got shocked the other day and I wasn't expecting it. Well, because sometimes you're working with wires and you're like, okay. Oh, sorry. Got to eat the microphone.
Yeah.
You're working with the wires and then you know, something happens and you're like, okay, well, I was fiddling with these things. Of course I expected it. But I was doing something else and the wire nut fell off the end of the wire and I brushed against it and it got me. I hate that.
Something about electricity that just scares me because, well, electricity obviously can kill you. I mean, a bee, I guess, could kill you if you were allergic to it.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not allergic to it, so it's just a little prick. Javen and I have been raising some bees out back, and a bee got in his suit one time, and he didn't know what to do with it, and it finally landed on his cheek and stung him. And like he had an amazing amount of composure, and he just walked away, and
Wow.
swelled up a little bit, but not bad. But
Kudos to him.
yeah, most people can't stand there and take a bee sting. But I mean, a bee sting's a bee sting. It's not going to be any worse unless you're allergic. Whereas voltage, I mean, modern electricity, you're pretty safe because it's going to flip a breaker or something like that. But it's still scary because you don't know the amount of, you're not consciously aware of how much voltage is coming through a line or how big it, unless you're an electrician, of course. But like, I just can't compute that stuff in the moment. So
I mean, voltage is scary on its own, but
it is.
then you have the AC, which can mess with your heart.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah. Have you seen the way they do electricity in like India, Malaysia, where they just have like a pole, and then there's power lines, and people like just like fling a wire over the power line, and that's how they power their house.
So is it transform power? Or do they have to transform it after they throw a line on it?
It's probably 220.
Dang.
Because that's like the standard in other countries, 220 volts. And it's illegal, so the power company will come along and like cut all those occasionally. Then they'll do it again. Pretty wild. And it looks like a big bird's nest.
Wow. I couldn't imagine. Like the amount of people who throw that wire up there and just instantly get zapped, you know, oops.
Yeah.
Like,
and they're dead. Whoopsies.
I mean, building codes, I complain sometimes about building codes because they do get very onerous in the States. And when they have nothing to do with life and safety, it annoys me. But man, life and safety type building codes are good. We don't realize how good we have it. Like you'd really have to try hard in a modern house to shock yourself and kill yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And same thing with gas infrastructure. It's like you'd have to try hard to burn your house down. So, and not smell it. I mean, we put a certain flavor in natural gas so you can smell it. So you're, you know.
Strawberry?
It's not strawberry.
Methyl mercaptan.
It smells like sulfur and eggs. But.
Odorant.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would be odorless.
Yeah.
So.
There were those houses, man, this was like 15 years ago, on 7th Street that
C-
blew up.
CMU students.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bore gone wrong. Boring company was boring and hit at a gas line, and it followed the trench into the basement of this rental.
Yeah.
The CMU students were.
And they smelled it, and they lit incense because they didn't like the smell.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's education. It's like you have a bad smell coming to the basement. Call the gas company.
Get out.
Get out.
Leave.
Don't light incense, but
Yeah.
they all lived. But
That's good.
From what I heard, he went back upstairs and sat on his couch, and when the incense lit, it blew the house up to a certain degree. It threw him into the ceiling. He's lucky he survived.
Oh, my goodness.
Was able to get out, but
Wow. Didn't it destroy the house next to it, too?
it destroyed a lot. I don't know about the house next to it, but there were lawsuits and
That's crazy.
yeah, don't mess around with gas unless you know what you're doing. I hit a gas line one time when I was hooking up a sewer. It was like 12 inches. Usually you expect these things to be like 24 inches or deeper. But this thing was like...
not 12 inches in diameter.
No,
oh my
it's
goodness,
usually 12 inches
me.
deep.
Okay.
No, it's not a high-pressure gas line.
Oh, man.
I've dug around high-pressure gas lines, and Excel is like there watching you. And if you vibrate the ground too much, they'll shut you down. They have state authority to shut you down. Anyways, I digress. I hit the gas line, and I was not expecting it, so it's just like... And I just ran. You know, that fight or flight?
Yeah.
I just ran. And I was talking to my dirt guy later, and he goes, all you need to do is get some vice grips, get down there and pinch her off, because you get charged for the amount of gas lost when you hit a gas line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
That can head up fast.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, if I knew what I was doing, if I understood the nature of gas, pressurized gas, all that stuff, maybe I would have gotten in there and tried to pinch it off, but no, I don't. So I ran, and I think that was probably the most logical thing for me to do is to run and let the professionals come in and pinch it off and fix it. And anyways.
Well, you're here to tell the story. So
I'm here to tell the story. Right. And now I stay far away from those markings on the ground.
But they tell you where it is, so you can get closer.
You can get closer. And I thought I could at least scrape the top 12 inches off so that I could not have to dig as much by hand. But
gotcha. You're trying to save a little time.
Trying to save a little time, thinking it's at least 24 to 30 inches deep. But nope.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go like this, and they're not perfect. So it's my fault. I paid for it.
I have to say, I was in Grandpa's old house. I've been working on that. So I went over there. I was looking at, because the gas lines have been changed. You can tell that. There was a gas pipe stub coming out of the wall, so I removed that. But I was looking at the gas meter, and it came out of the gas meter, went into the house, but then there was also a stub, and all it had was a hose bib. It was like there's a valve and then a hose connection. And it's like, Grandpa, what are you doing?
What was he using that for?
I don't know. He probably hooked it up to his grill or something. But it was just a hose connection.
Yeah.
What a renegade.
Yeah. But he probably knew what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
He made it work.
I mean, he lived to tell the tale, obviously. So,
yeah.
Who can argue with results?
That's right. Well, you want to talk about some legislation that just went into effect?
Yeah. When July 1st?
Yeah, July 1st.
Good old Colorado making laws, keeping us safe, making sure that we're under the thumb.
There's that balance, right? Like keeping people safe and then...
Well, we've talked about it before, liberty and responsibility.
Yeah.
But it seems like if you give up on self-governing, then the responsibility part just becomes legislation from the government, which gets a little out of balance.
It can. You think we're out of balance in Colorado?
Yeah.
Just a wee bit?
Just a wee bit. What is the makeup of the state assembly? Because we have 100 total of state senators and state representatives?
Correct. And we are, short of this election this fall, they have a supermajority in I'm going to get this, I think it's the Senate. And it may be opposite, but they have a supermajority in one of the chambers, and they are one short of a supermajority in the other chamber, and I believe it's the House. And they have the governorship, so they are one representative away from having a supermajority, which means
plus the courts are pretty much in their direction also.
Yeah, which means if the governor Governor Polis vetoed quite a few bills this year. I don't know if he was just like, hey, it's my last year, I'm gonna throw the hammer down.
He does seem to be acting a little bit more moderately this.
And plus he got a lot of heat and flack for releasing Tina Peters from prison early from his fellow Democrats. And so he's on a torrent with his veto.
He's just in a feisty mood.
Yeah, so he vetoed a bunch, but had they had a supermajority, they could have overrid.
Yeah,
in both chambers, they could have overrode those vetoes, but they don't. And I think no matter what state you're in, some semblance of balance is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Like when you got to make your case to the whole people, to the entire body, and you need people from the other side, you automatically get some form of moderation.
Yeah.
So I'm a Republican. I'm conservative, but when you get too conservative, the pendulum just swings back the other way over time. And it's going to happen in Colorado at some point.
Yeah. And then the swings become more violent.
They do. And they create violent seas. And I think moderate bills protecting people at a reasonable level, still pushing for personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is like a thing of the past. It's like,
it's an anathema.
yeah, legislators today think the only people that can take care of the people is me, the legislature. I have a responsibility to be everybody's mom, nanny, protector, and yeah, it's getting pretty bad.
The nanny state. Well, I mean, there was a bunch of them that came in.
What stood out to you?
Well, there was one that was outlawed, the 3D printing of gun-related devices, receivers, attachments, things like that.
I had looked at that. I looked at that one too. I was trying to find it
because that's always a hot button one. Of anything that touches the Bill of Rights is going to be hot button.
So, is it a right to print a firearm?
Well, I don't know. This is one of those things where if you take it upon yourself, there's a couple ways to look at this. If they say that their reasoning is to prevent like suicides, no one's going to take the time to design a piece of equipment and print it on their 3D printer.
Sure.
And make a working firearm just so that they can kill themselves. So it's the whole Mott and Bailey argument, right? They appeal to your emotions and say, well, we don't want people to commit suicide by using these 3D printed. Okay, that's fine. Nobody wants anyone to commit suicide. But tell me the real reason that you don't want people modifying their weapons. Is it to protect them? No, it's just to exercise more control. But on the other hand, if you 3D print a device or an attachment or a receiver for a firearm and you don't fully understand the internal ballistics being like, 50,000 PSI over 25 milliseconds and just the amount of power that thing generates, and you're thinking that you're going to be able to contain that amount of power, and I realize they're doing receivers and stuff, which don't see a lot of pressure, but still they're people that are going to go on Thingiverse or something and download a part to an M16 or whatever firearm they're working on. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to print it out of PLA and they're going to think they've made something that's
What's
good.
PLA?
Polylactic acid is just a 3D printing material.
And it prints as hard surface that'll
pressure? 3D printing has a huge amount of potential as far as very exotic shapes and multiple materials and stuff. But it all has to be material that you can, either it's UV activated and you are printing in a bath with stereolithography, which we don't have to get into, or you're doing FDM, which is squeezing it through a hot nozzle and kind of squirting it out, and that's what people mostly think of with 3D printing, right? I mean, it has a huge potential for prototyping and making exotic things, but it has a lot of limitations structurally, both from the materials that you have to use and the fact that it's kind of this layered thing with bonding interfaces between the layers and stuff like that. So there's a lot of physics, there's a lot of material stuff that people just don't know. It's a classic case of man's reach exceeding his grasp, right?
Sure.
Because if you look at the way that you make a firearm, you're very specific about the materials you use, The alloy of the steel that you use has to be heat treatable, it has to be machinable, all these things. It has to withstand those huge amount of pressures. So there's so much design and engineering that goes into any firearm, regardless of what it is, regardless if it's a shotgun, if it's a rifle, if it's a handgun, whatever. So if you negate all that and you think, well, I know the dimensions of this thing, so I can have this 3D printer print one, and then you think that component that you've just printed is going to function in the way that it's intended in the gun, you're kidding yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And the worst case scenario is people commit suicide accidentally because they print something that shouldn't have been 3D printed, and then they use it, and then something happens that shouldn't have happened. Now, if you're talking about attachments to a firearm, that's not a firearm. That's just something else, It's like, I don't know, it's an attachment to where you can have the strap in a certain way, or it's an attachment where you can put a scope on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's dumb to think that the nanny state has to come in and appeal to someone's emotions and say you can't do this thing.
It's the desire to regulate. It's the desire to quote unquote protect, to be in charge. I think, as Ronald Reagan said, that the government never gets smaller. I mean, government officials don't get in there and be like, we need to remove certain regulations.
Yeah.
It happens occasionally, but by and large, the movement, the gravity is towards more regulation.
But with, the internet, you can go on the internet, you can download 3D modeling software, you can get slicing software, you can get a 3D printer relatively cheaply. So I think on the legislature's part, it's just a fear of uncontrollability,
So I think
that's what it is.
Some of the devices they're trying to, I understand that. I think most people's perception of 3D printing is that someone's going to go and print a Glock, out of thin air.
Yeah.
And that they're going to have a working firearm that they can go out and fire without any background check, anything like that.
There's no way that you're ever going to print a barrel and a chamber
Correct.
out of PLA.
So the thing is trying to regulate, just looking this up, is large capacity magazines. So, which don't necessarily need to be made of metal, right?
I mean, they're going to be like semi-disposable.
Yeah.
Because they still have moving parts that are going to wear out.
Yeah.
And metal obviously wears differently than plastic. But sure. You could make has a limited amount of uses, but it's a high capacity magazine.
Yeah. Other things we're trying to avoid is like the rapid fire devices like the bump trigger or something like that, which makes it basically a semi-automatic almost feel like a fully automatic weapon, kind of like the massacre in Vegas Strip. Yeah. First offense for printing these things is a Class 1 misdemeanor. Second or subsequent offense is a Class 5 felony.
So do they have just a clear delineation of what they're actually trying to... Because all these peripherals, you could claim that something has been 3D printed for a gun and then send someone to prison because they printed a buckle for their strap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it lists what says the law makes it illegal to knowingly manufacture or produce using 3D printing a potentially functioning firearm, unfinished frame or receiver, large capacity magazine, or rapid fire device. The prohibition applies only if the item is potentially functional, which is very vague.
Potentially functional?
Yeah. Here's the exceptions. The law does not apply to federally licensed firearm manufacturers or accredited gunsmithing programs and their instructors or students. Anyways.
There's also a broader concept of just stifling the creativity in the public.
Yeah.
There's so many industries that are being so regulated into just innovation, if I can coin a phrase. Like, for instance, I used to work in the explosives industry. And if you wanted to break into the explosive industry, it would be almost impossible to do so. You would need 10 years and $10 million just to get in. And so the end result is the only people that can make these highly specialized devices are the, General Dynamics or Lockheed Martin or people like that can absorb that sort of expenditure over a decade. Mm-hmm. And so if you have kind of, savvy people that want to innovate in that field, it's almost impossible. And it reduces competition too. So, it's the nanny state coming in and saying you can't be creative is also kind of just a stupid thing to regulate into oblivion. So I would rather people, that's another thing that America was founded on, is just taking risks. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we're so, we're so comfortable and we're so used to safety in every regard that the amount of people that are just not risk averse, they're just, they want to take a little bit of risk here and there to do something new, to try something better, to see if something works. The entrepreneurial spirit, it's being quashed just because we can't be unsafe. We have to do these things.
I've got an analogy for you.
Ooh, I like analogies.
Go with me. So, in the Old Testament, when God gave a commandment or a law, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you think of the 10 Commandments. Well, in the Old Testament, you have new laws that are created to try to stay away from ever violating those laws. Like you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. Well, to protect from that, they said, well, we need to stop even writing his name down because we never want to take it in vain.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't even speak his name, or they didn't even write it down in the Old Testament. And they kept putting these fences around a law that God created. And with each subsequent generation, it was like an additional fence. Let's get farther and farther away so that we never, and for long, you're steeped in legalism, building these fences, and you completely miss the intent of the original law. And it seems like, what's the point of laws today? The point of laws today is to protect people's rights, right? Like our government exists, protect you and I's freedom, our ability to pursue our own happiness, you name it. So when someone comes and infringes on those rights, laws and government are meant to protect against those. But we continue to put fences and fences and fences and fences and get farther and farther away from the intent of laws, in that people can no longer make decisions for themselves. They can no longer have the freedom to do these things. So in order to protect our freedoms, we restrict freedoms. And it's that balance. And it seems like we've flung far, far away.
So in this particular case, what would you say is the core, the nucleus? Like the law that was originally good and pure and had a good spirit.
Murder.
Oh, so thou shalt not murder.
Thou shalt not murder.
Or if you do murder, here's the consequence.
There's a consequence.
So,
but we regulate as though someday we're going to solve the problem of murder and nobody will ever murder again. But the only way you're going to do that is if you put everybody in a loony bin, and strap them to a wall. I mean, welcome to humanity. Welcome to Earth. No matter what you do, people are going to murder. And that's a worldview, that humanity is sinful and fallen, and that we're always going to seek our own self-interests, and that we are always going to degrade at some level. And that's sin in and of itself. And so we're never going to be able to get away from murder.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how enlightened we become, it seems like even the more we've become enlightened, the more the problem persists. So again, we're never going to get away from that. We can reasonably regulate. You make sure that there are consequences for actions, and that should, not in totality, but to a large degree, regulate against, or at least incentivize people not to murder. That's why we have that's why we used to have, for most states have gotten rid of it, but the death penalty, right? If you're staring down the death penalty, are you going to do this or that? Are you going to murder? Are you going to... There's very few things other than murder that get the death penalty. But if you understand that, most people aren't going to murder because most people value life. And for those who don't, that's an issue, and we can work around that. But generally, they identify themselves quite early. And what do we do with those individuals is difficult, because if they've never committed a crime, how do you regulate them?
Yeah. Well, you said something there that's interesting, and that is the word value. And that's a cultural thing. I mean, what we value as a culture is, there's many ways that things can get culturally ingrained. But that's what goes back to self-regulation, just having a good moral center of your own because of what you value is very important. But the question I would pose to you is, do you think these Colorado lawmakers are valuing life and valuing not murdering somebody, or are they just wanting to control? Because it goes back to the Mott and Bailey, right? It's like these laws are so that people don't get injured or murdered. But in reality, these laws are just to control people.
I think they will tell you that they're interested in protecting people. And I think, to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think they probably genuinely believe that they're protecting people. I think it's, to the extreme, somewhat delusional to think that you're going to solve every problem with more regulation. I mean, the further you kind of get away from that core idea, the return on investment, if you will, the economy of additional regulation, additional law does less and less and less and less. You have less economy out there on the fringe.
It's the 80-20 principle, right?
Yeah.
It's like your first 20% of efforts makes up 80% of your results, and then it's diminishing returns from there.
Yeah, and I think we're in that realm of diminishing returns. We are doing very, very little, but it feels good. And for any new regulator, I had the feeling when I was a commissioner, got first elected commissioner, I need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I need to solve a problem. And so you try to identify problems and you try to solve those problems. Sometimes you do good, sometimes you don't do so good. We were going to try to shut down a road to commercial traffic out in Loma, not understanding the consequences, because we thought they were skipping the port out in Loma, and they were causing a lot of truck traffic issues out in rural areas where families live and things like that. When in reality, they were actually trying to avoid the school, which hazmat truckers were trying to avoid the school, which goes down the highway. And so it was good that they were on those roads, but we didn't learn that until later on, and we didn't eventually shut down traffic down there. But it was based on good intentions. I wanted to solve a problem, but I didn't realize the greater problem I was solving. And once we all learned that, even the families in that area were like, I get it. I understand why they need to come down here. Yes, there's people who can abuse it, and we'll try to get them, but for the most part, we got to understand the unintended consequences. And sometimes the unintended consequences are worse, especially when you get out here in the margins. And again, you're getting away from those that economy of scale type legislation, and the impact is diminishing. I think sometimes you do more harm than good.
I think so too.
Anyways, any other bills you found suspect or interesting?
Can't remember. There was one about insurance, and maybe I can go on a diatribe about insurance.
Do it.
Because there was also like one on home affordability.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll talk about that one first.
Okay, go.
I was thinking about this the other day because we talked about the nuclear family and how it's been systematically dismantled.
Mm-hmm.
A pretty easy calculus to do, and you can do the math here, is if you have two people in a marriage, by and large, they need one house. If they get divorced, how many houses do you need?
Two.
Very good. Yes.
I'm smart.
So if more people just stayed married, housing crisis, you think it'd still be there?
It's a good question. It's also cultural too. Like, in other cultures, entire families live in one house.
Mm-hmm. Like
Yeah.
4 generations.
Yeah. But there's this idea today that every single person, individual, deserves an entire house for themselves, by themselves, and it's a right. It's an entitlement that should be given to them by the government, which is not the case, and it'll never work. And it's probably part of the reasons that we have such a housing problem, because we have this idea that if someone is couch surfing for a little while because they don't have everything together, they can't find a job, that they are somehow homeless. They consider those people homeless. If they're couch surfing, or if they're living in their parents' house or in the basement, they are essentially homeless. So, which I disagree. If you can find housing, temporary or not, you're not homeless. And the idea that you can't live with somebody, and the idea that you deserve or need a place to yourself, or that you lack dignity if you don't have that. Again, we're trying to solve for problems that should solve for themselves if you let the system work itself out. But instead, we inherently change market dynamics by subsidizing so heavily. Because today, housing advocates will tell you, the market can't provide anything below this line. So that's when the government needs to get involved, which
Below that line as far as
affordability. So they talk about, like AMI, average, I think it's monthly income, but anyways, there's an AMI, there's a calculation that says what a person based on their income can afford in housing. And so most people around 120, 130 AMI can't afford the median home price today. And so they say below this particular line, we need subsidy. But that subsidy just pushes that line up naturally. And so by subsidizing, you're creating a bigger problem. You're solving temporarily a problem for someone, but you're at large making the problem even bigger, and you kind of separate unaffordability with affordability, and you kind of get rid of the middle, if you will, with the heavy subsidy. And I believe home investment is one of the best things that we can do for somebody. It is the best investment ever, because it's one of the purchases that you make that grows bigger in time. It appreciates in value. When you buy a car, it depreciates the day you drive it off the lot, or even if it's a used car, the day you buy it, it's going to start going down in value, unless it's like a Ford Bronco or something, and then it's going to go up in value. But in large part, we're not solving for the greater problem. We're solving for the problem that's right in front of our face that we think we need to solve that feels good. And there's this big push. There still is this big push for housing first. Like, we've tried to solve homelessness by saying there's more issues for most people experiencing homelessness than just being homeless or not having a job. A lot of the time there's drug addiction, behavioral health issues, things like that. And some people say, no, we need to get them housing first before anything else. And I understand their intent. Someone who is in a safe environment, someone who is protected, can then start working on their issues. But I don't think the data bears it out. I mean, you look at the communities that put the most money into housing first, into fixing and solving homelessness, they still have the worst homeless problems on the planet. And so getting someone a home, getting somebody in housing doesn't necessarily fix the problem in and of itself. But anyways, back to the larger, greater question is, if we're going to subsidize anything, and the one place I think we should at least consider is just the first-time homebuyer down payment assistance program, because a lot of times the burden, the hurdle to entry is getting that down payment, and what kills a lot of people is that PMI, that mortgage insurance. When you're over 80% loan to value, they make you pay insurance, which means that you can afford that much less.
Yeah.
And so we need to continue to promote home ownership. It's the best investment for an American today. Get a mortgage, pay it off in 30 years, 20 years, 15, whatever you can afford. And then you have assets, it pays itself off. Instead, a lot of people are renting. And you're paying just as much, if not more, in rent than you would be for a mortgage. But people don't feel comfortable having a mortgage. They don't feel comfortable with ownership. They're not being educated properly in the value of home ownership.
Plus, the cost of entry is a lot smaller for renting. I mean, you're doing first and last months and deposit.
It is.
Instead of 20% of $500,000.
But you're paying someone else's investment. You're paying somebody else's mortgage for them.
Yeah.
And they're gaining on the investment. Yeah. Which, again, there's nothing wrong with rentals, because people need rentals. There's a time and place for when people might need a rental.
I thought landlords were evil, though. Aren't all landlords evil?
You would think so, based on laws passed by the state legislature. But we need rentals. But people got to realize what the investment is for the value in investing in their own home. And unfortunately, the people with the big money on top are realizing the value of a home investment as well. And so they're buying up houses like crazy in these areas like the Front Range, which limits the amount of homes that are available for people to purchase.
See, that's just something that I think overall, like, the government should probably enact regulations to organizations and entities that are on the same scale. Like, if the state of Colorado said to BlackRock, no, you can't buy any houses in the state of Colorado. I mean, we can debate it all day long, but it seems like at least the scales match, right? Sure. Instead of the big state of Colorado saying to each individual person, you can't do this. It's like, no, say, kick BlackRock out of here, and then say, no, only private ownership, right? Mm-hmm. No corporate ownership or anything like that, or at least adjust the scales. Because wasn't it the case, though, then, several years ago around COVID, BlackRock was coming in, or other investment firms, and just really just buying everything, even above listing price, and coming in and just, it's on the market for 2 days because an investment firm bought it, And so now, we have a housing crisis. Well, duh. It's because everything has been bought up by these huge mega corporations and then private owners, private landlords, or private people that just want to own a home. They're just forced into rentalship forever.
I think when talking about regulation, if there's one thing that we should fight for, it's for home ownership. Because these big corporations have, and this is, and I know some of my capitalist friends are going to say, no, this is capitalism, but if we're going to fight for anything, we should fight for the nuclear family and home ownership, because a family that stays together and owns their own home, by and large, is going to be doing better than 99% of the world.
Oh, yeah. Just because of the stability of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's fight for that.
And the ability to pass it on to the next generation. Just the wealth that you've acquired in your life to be able to pass it on to your kids, I think is very valuable.
Yeah. But it's got to be done in a way that's sustainable, that's organic, that doesn't need heavy subsidy all the time.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
And that used to work. Like youngins used to be able to, purchase a house when they were young. I mean, houses just didn't cost that much.
And what about this? I mean, if you look at just like, okay, in the ghetto, trailer park, whatever.
The original affordable housing.
Yeah. A lot of those, you can't get a loan on them, right? Because they're not HUD approved or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, doesn't it seem like it would make sense to take those sort of areas and find some sort of, early home ownership program to where you can say to somebody who's just about ready to buy their first house, we will help you get into this house, even though it's just a trailer home, so that you can own it and have an asset, and then you can sell it and trade up, I think something that's very erroneous is the fact that new homeowners have to get like the middle class house as their starter home. Yeah. It's like, no. If your first house is a trailer, then kudos to you. Yeah. And you can trade up over the intervening decades, so that by the time you're in your 40s or 50s, you do have that nice, comfortable middle class house that you own.
It's a housing fallacy. I get asked the question a lot. Well, Cody, why can't you build affordable housing? Well, what do you mean? First of all, what do you mean by affordable? And they're going to talk about 100%, 120% AMI and stuff. There's no way on the face of this planet that I can build to 100 or 120% AMI today, unless I'm building a 600 square foot tiny little thing.
Yeah.
But still, the market rate would still be above that. So what are you doing to solve affordability? Supply and demand, right? Like,
the fact that you're building.
Well, when I add supply up here, and someone who's lived in their affordable house for 5, 10, 15 years, who has a good chunk of equity, and they want to move up to the next step, they come and they buy my house, which opens up availability in this realm, which is affordable housing. So this housing fallacy is that everybody deserves a brand new house at any given point in their journey. And that's not the case. We start at the bottom for a reason. Yeah. So there's some people who gain great wealth from their great uncle dying, and they're a millionaire overnight. Yes, that happens all the time. But it's not the norm.
Yeah.
The norm is someone starts at the bottom. They buy something they can afford. They get a job flipping burgers at McDonald's. They get something. They may have to rent until they build up a nest egg to where they can actually make a down payment on something affordable. Now, yes, is availability a problem right now? It is a problem right now, and it's been a problem since COVID, when people realized that they can work from home, and so they kind of moved into rural areas. They moved into places that are popular to live. Colorado is a popular place to live.
Yeah, we
got an extra congressman at the last census because we were a growing place. California actually lost a congressman. So we're a growing place. And when we're growing, you're going to have growing pains. And that means availability of housing stock is going to be low. But you have to let that market react naturally and not heavily subsidize it. When you heavily subsidize it, you're giving an input to the system that's going to continually need that input, and it's never going to be able to run on its own organically.
Yeah. Do you think there's an unholy trinity of credit, lawyers, and insurance that drive prices up for everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic case of rent seeking, right? Like, Insurance companies, they want less regulation on their industry. You know, they want to be able to charge as much as possible. So yeah, I mean, there's always that rent seeking that happens at the state capitol. Business is seeking its own interest.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be the only ones in the market. They want a certain amount of regulation that keeps the little guys from competing, and only the mammoths. I mean, the best example is probably the medical industry, big pharma, you name it. Like they want the hurdle to entry to be so high that nobody else can get in.
Yeah. I think you're touching on something really interesting, but it wasn't quite what I was getting at. Let me, if you look at the average price of a new vehicle, what is it these days? $60,000?
Yeah, I mean,
50, 60? I mean, I remember the days when it was like on Price is Right and every car was like 20,000.
Yeah.
That was, 30 years ago. But if you have a condition where, I'm speaking just from the consumer perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If I go and I buy a truck, I have not actually bought a truck. What I've done is I've signed a contract that says I'm going to pay this truck off in 8 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I bought it on credit. I've insured it for its, whatever its sticker price was. And then if something happens, you have a whole multitude of ambulance chasers that want to get involved and get their cut of the meat, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so as a consumer, do I care what that vehicle costs?
No, you care what your monthly payment is.
Right.
And I've gone to car dealerships before, and I'm interested in the total price. And they will try to get you disinterested in the total price. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about the $90,000 window sticker. Let's talk about monthly price. Where do you need to be monthly? I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Where I'm at monthly. I want to know what the total price is. And I want to know that I'm getting a good value. But yeah, they're solely focused. And that was different 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, if you came and said, hey, I'll pay cash, they'd be willing to wheel and deal with you, because getting a loan for it and all that is a hassle. It's a process. In the end, it takes a little bit out of their cut. So they would much rather deal with somebody who's paying with cash. If you go down today and say, hey, I'm paying cash, they're probably going to charge you extra. So
the product they're actually selling is a
financing
that they've sold to a bank.
Correct. Because they make money on the financing. When they sell that financed product, they get a cut. They get an additional cut.
Yeah.
So they'll actually probably wheel and deal a little bit more if they know you're going to finance the product.
Yeah.
Which is backwards from where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you're talking about market forces, but the consumer really doesn't care about the total price of a product, of course the price is going to go up. Mm-hmm. Duh. So, I mean, can we apply the same thing to housing?
100%.
Because nobody buys a house with cash unless you're BlackRock. You go to the bank and you get a loan, and then you buy the house on credit, and then you insure it, and then there's a whole bunch of lawyers, just at the ready to get in the fray and make things go their way, which rhymes. So if we're talking about affordability crisis, it's like the consumer needs to actually start discerning and thinking about the total cost of this thing when I buy it. Because if you think about buying it on a 30-year loan at 4%, if you buy a $500,000 home, it's going to cost you $1 million in the end.
Sure.
So in the end, what you've actually paid for that house, the cost of the product is $1 million. So, but again, if insurance pays for it, if it gets destroyed, who cares? Insurance is going to pay for it as long as I meet my deductible. Mm-hmm. So if you have two scenarios and you have one house, which is a smaller starter home, but if something happens to it, I have to fix it. And the insurance is not going to pay for it, and I have to make sure that I'm just taking good care of it. I'm not being negligent. It's my own piece of property. Am I going to buy the $500,000 house, or am I going to buy the $250,000 house? Just because of my cost of continued ownership.
Correct. You're going to buy this cheaper one.
Yeah. So then if you have a situation where, I'm going to buy it from the bank, or the bank's going to buy it, and I'm going to pay them the monthly payment, and then the insurance is going to cover whatever damages happen and blah, 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 blah. I might as well go with a more expensive one, right? Because I don't care. So then the market force that actually drives the price down, which is the consumer ability to stomach a huge price, is not even there. It's totally eliminated. So I think that translates into other areas of the market. And that's why things are so expensive, is because the consumer doesn't demand that things are less expensive in actuality, right?
Because
they demand the low monthly price, which does not actually translate to a low total product cost.
Yeah, they just want their monthly payment as low as they can. So that means extending the term of their loan, or getting a slightly increased interest rate. All those things. When your term goes up, the interest rate goes up. So in the end, you're paying more and more money because you're paying more and more interest.
Yeah.
All they care about is, can I afford this monthly? Because there's this idea that I deserve this. I see my friends with it, and that's where we get into this competition, right? We're all trying to be like with the Jetsons. We all need that house.
Yeah.
And when you can break from that mold, and you can say, I want at least a 20% down payment on something that I can afford, where does that put me? People are going to say, you're crazy. Why would you buy something like that? No, they're not crazy. It's the Dave Ramsey way, right? Like, go buy something you can afford. Live like nobody else right now, because you're living in a cheap house that you can actually afford, that you can afford to maintain. You can actually afford all of that. And in time, as that asset appreciates, as you make a little bit more money, you can afford the next step. And before you know it, in your 50s and 60s, you own your house.
Yeah.
And you're in a decent house.
Yeah. It's a nice house.
It's a nice house, and you've paid it off because you were consistent, you were disciplined throughout the years. You didn't keep refinancing so you could buy the boat, or you didn't keep financing to get your monthly payment down a little bit when new interest rates came in. But that we don't teach that type of home economics in school anymore. Like, I'd love
or at home.
Yeah, and call out to Dave Ramsey. He's got a Dave Ramsey University for kids, for teenagers.
Yeah, not sponsored yet.
Not sponsored yet. But what he does is he teaches kids how to. I mean, we don't balance checkbooks per se anymore, but how do you balance your bank account?
Yeah,
kind of happens automatically today. We just look at our balance and say, "Oh, that's where I'm at," which works a little bit better today because we don't write a whole lot of checks anymore. So there's not some check floating around that you forgot about.
Yeah, but there's still a delay on some things, right?
Sure.
If you have an automatic payment and then you're underwater and you get a fee.
So the value of having some type of software or some type of ledger as to things that you've quote unquote already spent, something that's on auto payment that's going to happen at the end of the month, that's like a check that you sent.
It's a commitment that you've made,
and so you should have that you should have that budgeted in some way so that you understand. Okay, I don't actually have. There's $2,000 in my. Well, did you know your mortgage can hit at the end of the month? It's $1,800, and you forgot about it, so you went out and bought a new grill, and then your mortgage payment bounces.
Only have $1,000 against an $1,800 draft.
Yeah, and so the idea of budgeting is so foreign sometimes, but it's like, it's so much value. It gives so much comfort knowing that at the end of the month, I know where all my dollars are. We used You Need a Budget, YNAB. We've been budgeting for a long time, and so at the beginning of the month, we put all our dollars where they need to be. And there's a comfort to that, knowing that I've got everything paid for. Sometimes expenses come up, and you gotta adapt. You gotta put something on a credit card, something like that. That happens.
But you're being intelligent and deliberate.
Yeah, but as Dave Ramsey said, if you had that, what does he call it, emergency fund for emergencies like that, you don't have to put it on a credit card. You got the cash in the bank. But we just don't think like that anymore.
So then the question becomes, A, why don't we teach this at home? And then B, why don't they teach this in schools?
They should. I mean, one of the most important things that we could teach a kid in school is
how to
talk about these kids. Well, how to be an adult, but like, how do you manage your money? How do you even buy a house? How should you be planning to buy a house? Because one of the biggest decisions a person is ever going to make in their life, minus getting married or their salvation or something like that, is buying a house. It's the biggest investment they're ever going to make. Why aren't we teaching them what they should be thinking about when they're 18, 21, 25? Because you could, if you did it right and you saved money, and you could have a nice down payment by the time you're 25.
Sure.
Unless you're getting,
or heaven forbid, you could buy a trailer house.
Yeah. Free and clear.
Yeah. So I tell my kids there's 4 fundamentals. I'm doing it over here so I don't diverge from the microphone.
Sure.
So the first one, and whenever we get into these conversations about, I just have this fear of the future. It's like, just stick to the 4 fundamentals, right? The first one, your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately important, right? The second one, since they're kids and they're not married yet, is just being very careful about who you pick for a spouse. And I frame this whole thing of just like 95% of all the pain that you will experience in life probably has to do with these 4 things, right? Mm-hmm. So these 4 things, if you do them right, do them well, you're probably going to live the best life you could possibly live. Mm-hmm. So the first one, relationship with God, and I'll reiterate that one because it deserves reiteration. Second one, just be very careful about who you choose for a spouse, because in this family, we believe that marriage is for the lifetime, right?
Yeah.
The D word, it doesn't exist in the dictionary for us, right? So, and that's divorce, by the way. Because there's a lot of words.
I thought it stood for Dallas.
Oh yeah, well that's the big D.
Yeah.
Isn't there a song like that?
I'm going through the big D. Don't mean Dallas.
Yeah.
I can't believe what the judge had to tell us.
We connected on that one. That's good.
Go.
The third one is just how you treat money, and a more specific corollary is just don't go into debt. Mm-hmm. Just don't do it. If you can at all avoid debt, just do it. Yeah. Do it. Avoid.
It's
avoid
so
debt.
tempting though.
Yeah.
Because you've got these guys out just for a monthly payment of $85. Mm-hmm. You can have a brand new queen size mattress.
Yeah. And then another payment over here, another payment over here, and this subscription and this subscription.
Yep. And
then the fourth one is just taking care of your body, because you only get one. Mm-hmm. No matter how far medical science advances, you got to take care of that thing.
Yep.
You know? So it's like if you stick to those 4 fundamentals and just be very careful on each one of those, what a good life, you know?
Body, mind, spirit, marriage.
Well, yeah. God, spouse, money, and body.
Yeah.
So those 4 things, just make sure you're doing good things in all of those, you know? So, but the question I asked was, why do they not teach this in schools?
Yeah.
Either it's negligent or it's purposefully deleted from the curriculum. In my humble opinion, it's one of those two. And either of those is pretty nefarious, because if you're just being negligent, if you are teaching somebody and you're not teaching them for the next stage in life, then you're setting up for failure. But if you're actually teaching them something in lieu of something else, and that's a conscious decision, then that's, kind of conspiratorial. So why don't they teach just adulting in school?
Or budgeting 101.
Yeah.
Personal budgeting, personal finance.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't know if they do or they don't. I mean, my assumption is they don't. We did it ourselves with our kids, Dave Ramsey, but it's a good question. Do they in District 51 teach personal finance in middle school, high school? High school would be the perfect place to do it.
Yeah, I never got anything in that vein,
Yeah, my mom taught me how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah, and I'm trying to teach my kids. And it's one of those things where if you don't have that foundation, as soon as they hit 18 and they get all those credit card offers in the mail, and then it's like, you have to build credit. You have to get a credit score. You have to credit. Unless they are sort of tempered to say that, no, I can think about this judiciously, and I don't need this thing that you're telling me I need, truly. If they don't have that, then they just fall into the trap of, I got my first credit card. Well, what's the interest rate? I don't know. Let's look it up.
22%.
It's 29%.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What does that even mean? What is interest? It's like, okay, well, now you've just set yourself up for a lifelong cycle of battling against debt and credit. Yep. And we just kind of send, and with student loans, I mean, you can go to college. You need to go to college, because if you don't, you're not going to get a good job, which is a lie.
It is.
But that's what we tell the kids. And then it's like, okay, sign here on the dotted line for this $100,000 of student debt without knowing all the rules.
And you're 40 before you pay it off.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're still in school, you don't have to start paying off.
So in my conspiratorial brain, I would say that anybody who generates money on credit is pushing to keep the schools from doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think is happening, because it's such a huge hole. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in the culture, you see memes where it's like, why didn't I learn this in high school? It's like, we were learning about cirrus clouds when we should have been learning about what interest is, and all these things. It's like, why are we not teaching this in schools? It's a huge hole. It cannot just be that it's overlooked or omitted. It's got to be that the curriculum has purposefully been altered so that these things are not taught, so that kids will go out, they'll get on Amazon, they'll buy the TV, they'll buy the washer and dryer, they'll buy the truck, and then they've set up this perpetual debt cycle. Yeah. I can see the wheels turning in your mind.
Well, it's just like we're in this world of antithetical teaching where up is down and down is up, and logical thinking like budgeting, teaching our kids how to budgeting is somewhere the man trying to keep somebody from something, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, so you don't want me to have a flat screen TV. That's what you're saying. You're trying to suppress me.
Yeah. You're trying to oppress.
Oppress.
I need to watch this in 4K Ultra HD.
And the only way I'm
saying
going to
I
get
can't.
that is through a credit card at 28%.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's this idea that 2 + 2 is not 4, and that somehow everything boils down to just power and oppression. And I'm of the press class, so if you say I have to buy with cash, you're just trying to oppress me. So there's this antithetical thinking, and
Or if you have to buy it at all and not just run into the store and grab it and run out.
why shouldn't I be entitled to it?
Yeah. Everybody's entitled to a TV, right?
Yeah. Anyways, we could beat this one forever, but
So teach your kids.
yeah, let's move into the last one, and that's the LGBTQ protection law that just went into effect. They call it the Kelly Loving Act, which expands Colorado's anti-discrimination protections for transgender individuals, addresses issues involving name and gender identity in schools and government records, was among the session's most debated legislation. So interesting enough, there was a recent Supreme Court case that actually overturned Colorado's 2019 LGBTQ law, which basically said you cannot, if you're a licensed counselor or physician, you cannot talk somebody back from transitioning, which was ultimately 8-1. So this wasn't a 5-4, 6-3 decision. This was an 8-1. So you had very liberal justices also agreeing that this was viewpoint discrimination because it only discriminated against one viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You were only criminalized if you were teaching them or counseling them back in one direction. So 8-1 decision with liberal justices agreeing this is viewpoint discrimination, the 2019 law.
So who was the one dissent?
Jackson.
Oh. Not surprising.
I'm sure that Sotomayor and Kagan probably had their own opinion. I forget what they call it. There's the, let's see here. I think Gorsuch wrote the opinion, the majority opinion, and then there's like dissenting, but for opinions, and then there's obviously the dissent. I can't remember what they call them, but
So they just categorize them.
they do.
They temper them a little bit.
They do.
Like, I voted in favor, but here's my objections.
But the major opinion is what sets kind of case law,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the dissent and everything else is kind of meaningless. It's just
Yeah.
someone wanting to have their
On the
opinion.
peripheral.
So what happened was they were basically saying you can't viewpoint discriminate, and so Colorado came in and changed their law, and now they're basically saying they're just leaving it up to litigation, right? Like if you were damaged by a physician trying to counsel you in either way, you now have recourse to sue, which can both. It's this double-edged sword. It can work both ways.
Well, not only that, but there's no statute of limitations.
There's no statute of limitations. So let's say, for example, if you go to a counselor or physician and they say, these feelings you're having are real, this gender dysphoria is real, and you need to transition. And in 10, 15 years, if you have major complications from having transition, you can go back and you can sue that doctor. It happens both ways because you can't have viewpoint discrimination now. So I think the unintended consequences of this law is going to be profound. Well, here's a question. Why even become a physician? Why even get licensed under the state of Colorado if they're just going to basically take away your freedom to counsel as you feel necessary based on your worldview?
I mean, let's face it, it's always going to go in one direction, though.
It is. I mean, that's what politics is about.
And so what they're trying to do is just say, since they can't outright ban speech in a certain way, you can't coerce it, right? They're going to say, no, you can have whatever speech you want.
But you need a license to do this.
Well, but yeah, now you can be liable, you know. So you can say to somebody, okay, back in 19 or whatever, you know, if you're counseling someone today and you say that, no, you should wait, you know, you're having this gender dysphoria and you should wait until you're 18 or 21 or something and just see what happens, you know. And then 30 years from now, they did transition and they felt, and you know, the bad feelings have not resolved, and they say, if I had only transitioned earlier, I would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can go to that licensed, trained practitioner and sue them 30 years later for something that we don't even know if their bad feelings were caused by this particular incident.
Yeah.
So it's like unintended consequences decades later. It's crazy. So, okay, I'm 75 years old, and I've just, retired from my counseling practice that I've been doing for 40 years. Suddenly I get a letter in the mail from a lawyer that says something that I counseled somebody on, early in my career, I'm now liable for punitive damages, which are probably going to be exorbitant. And so I'm getting ready to enter this blessed retirement in my life, and suddenly I'm financially destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great thing to put into law, So if you're saying, I don't know, I think it's going to go one way all the time. And because they can't outright ban speech, then they're going to say, we're just going to open up the muzzle, and whatever teeth that the patient wants to put forth, is going to be fine. We're not going to interfere.
Well, that goes back to my original question. Why would you ever get your license?
Yeah. I mean, you would if you totally agree with the paradigm that's being presented. But if you don't agree with the paradigm, what are you going to do? Well, you're either going to move to Arkansas because the politics are different, or you're just going to not get licensed, so.
And you're going to counsel people spiritually.
Yeah. So the only thing that happens is the pool of licensed practitioners gets sort of viewpoint discriminated organically.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very deliberate tactic. I think the other deliberate tactic is like going back to the Mott and Bailey. Like these legislators, they will put forth laws that are obviously unconstitutional, and then when they get struck down, they already have the next law primed up that's only slightly less unconstitutional.
Sure.
Or they've dodged a bullet somehow. They've done all the skullduggery to figure out how can we avoid just an open contest of this law, even though it really accomplishes the same thing or something very close to it. We've already got it primed up and ready. It's in the chamber. And then as soon as the Supreme Court strikes it down 8-1, it's like, okay, well, we're just going to enact this, and we know the governor's going to sign it. So
yeah,
it's like this preemptive, just like skirting the boundaries of Supreme Court, precedent way of lawmaking, which is so ridiculous in my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can say whatever you want. You can be a licensed practitioner, and you can say whatever you want. But now you're going to pay for it. Maybe. So it's like a threat, right? It's like a preemptive, like threat-making way of legislation.
But you know that the ambulance chasers out there are going to utilize this law. They're going to do a test case. They're going to find somebody out there who was quote unquote damaged.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay for their lawsuit.
It's like, what is the burden of proof on that?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like they feel bad 30 years later. Suddenly they're eligible for punitive damages. The ACLU is going to be all over that.
Yeah. And how do you prove damages? Either like, I feel bad. I'm depressed.
It's like, I can prove that this event happened, like I was counseled, and here's the records, and then I feel bad now.
Yeah.
So according to this law, I can sue for damages.
Well, and you want to know why housing prices are through the roof as well, is because of lawsuits. That's why my question was the unholy trinity of credit, insurance, and lawyers. Lawyers, yeah. There's because we lack the real tort form we need in Colorado around housing and units. There are companies on the Front Range. Now, mind you, when these guys start digging out, they've already got lawyers out there taking pictures because those lawyers know that in the future they're going to go talk to the owners of this condominium or apartment complex or something to suing the builder. Mm-hmm. They just know it. So they're out there taking pictures. They're building their record already. And so what these big companies are doing now is like, well, we'll just have to hold them. We'll build them and we'll hold them till the statute of limitations is up 7-8 years. And so now there's just a larger holding cost for these builders. They make their profits in 8 to 10 years instead of right away, which increases the cost of housing. Their rentals, they're not owned yet, so they don't turn them into condominiums
and
yet.
And the people that do move in, they have no recourse because these things are already 10 years old.
Yeah. So it's we need real tort reform in the housing industry, but this is I think this is going to bite them in the butt someday. And they're going to come back and we need to change the law because this is absurd. Nobody's getting their license now, or the licensing is only for those who are only going to do one thing.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it's viewpoint discrimination without discriminating against someone's view.
And if somebody does get counseled, somebody does say, if they want to counsel somebody away from transitioning or something like that, and they are truly unqualified, it's like that's the only people that would be doing that sort of. So that they're almost forcing that viewpoint into the realm of these people are totally unqualified. So that was just kind of a spark that happened, but it's also kind of a viewpoint discrimination of look at what the licensed people are saying and compare that to the unlicensed people. So it's like, okay, this viewpoint is clearly better because these people have licenses, and this point is clearly inferior because these people don't have licenses. And then it's like in the public opinion,
a bit Orwellian.
Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, the lawyers getting involved like preemptively in housing projects is so disgusting.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
Nothing's happened so far. They're out there literally turning dirt and they're taking pictures. They're ambulance chasers. I mean, it's
yeah.
You drive through a big city, even somewhat in Grand Junction. What's the number one sign you see? It's attorneys.
Yeah.
They're moochers, man.
Yeah.
There are good lawyers out there, but the vast majority of them are just ambulance chasers.
Yeah. And I think it's almost unique to the U.S. because in other countries, the party that loses the lawsuit is responsible for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the U.S., the lawyer's just charged by the hour, or something like that. Maybe you know more about that than I do, but it seems like our system encourages just frivolous lawsuits all the time.
Well, what happens most of the time, especially with these ambulance chasers, is, and I mean that broadly speaking, whether they're going after government, whether they're going after industry, you name it, it's, hey, we won't charge you in time unless we get a settlement. But when you get a settlement, we're getting 50% of the settlement. So these guys are just looking for opportunities. And generally what happens, like Mesa County, believe it or not, gets sued a lot. And in large part from our jail, because there's a lot of civil rights issues within jail, treating them right, all that stuff. But what happens is the lawyers say, hey, let me throw a lawsuit at the county and we'll get a settlement. We don't have to put a lot of work into it. We'll say we're going to sue for $2 million and we'll settle for $100,000. I put very little work into it. I scrape out $50,000, you scrape out $50,000,
And the insurance company will always want to settle.
Oh yeah, insurance company, they're doing the bottom dollar. They're like, okay, we can fight this for 2 or 3, 4 years and spend this much money in discovery and stuff like this, or we can settle for half that right now and we can get out of it. So insurance companies are always going to want to settle. Counties, our insurance, we're self-funded, our insurance. So it's coming out of pocket. So we do not like to settle unless people have a good case against us. And if you have a good case against us, it means we probably did something wrong and we're liable for something. So we're open to settling.
Yeah.
Like that's the point of a lawsuit, is if someone's rights were taken from them, you compensate them for them. And then we get better, we learn in the future. But when it's a completely frivolous lawsuit, no, we do not want to settle. We want to go to court.
Yeah.
And so we have to make that calculus all the time as to whether or not to go to court or not, or settle. But yeah, they're out there.
And it seems like it makes people get sloppy in their decision making, as far as like, okay, county administration or a builder that says, okay, I know now how I can kind of skirt the rules and I will not be liable for anything ever.
Yep.
So who cares what the quality of this building is? If I'm pretty sure it's going to last 10 years and then it's going to absolutely fall apart,
Correct.
I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But then if they're liable, in a reasonable fashion, liable from the very beginning, then they're going to say, well, I want to make the best condominium that I can because I will truly be liable on a reasonable term basis. And so I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
If I have a reasonable expectation of not getting sued, if I make a good product, then I'm pretty sure I'm just going to make a good product.
Yep.
But if I have an expectation of I could make a perfect product and I'm still going to get sued, why do I even care?
Yeah.
I'm just going to make my money a little bit later. And then who gets screwed in the end? The people that actually own or live in the place that's getting sued.
Yeah.
Whether it be the county or whether it be a condominium.
Well, and this is where industry at times gets a really bad name, because they're funding politicians to create laws to allow them to skirt accountability. And then the opposite side of the pendulum is we're holding people accountable for things they didn't do or can't do, or forcing them to settle for things they shouldn't settle, which causes the price to go up. So we've got to find this balance,
because we assume that they have that insurance blanket that they can just fall on. So blessed insurance.
We have to let the line be kind of drawn organically by the market, And but sometimes people feel that's too dangerous to let the market kind of just settle on a line. And trust me, market forces are powerful. If a certain company is not behaving properly, Google reviews is going to oust them.
Oh yeah.
People will oust them. Hey, they didn't do this. They did that. And yes, that means some people are going to have to. Some people are going to eat it. Some people are going to have to go through that experience for them to have a review or for them to build that reputation. But we can't solve that for everybody.
Yeah.
We've got to let the market run at some point.
And more than likely, the people that eat it will be the ones that deserve to eat it, right?
Possibly.
But if you make somebody eat it and their insurance pays for it, that means everybody that uses that insurance is eating it, right? So it's the collective eating.
I mean, the person with that insurance, their premiums are going to go up.
Yeah.
But yes.
But probably that has a ballooning effect all over.
It does, 100%. It's the people that go to the ER all the time and who don't have insurance. Everybody else with insurance or cash pay or whatever, they're paying for it.
Yeah.
It's why healthcare is so dang expensive in the United States. But
there you go.
Anyways, well, I think we nailed it.
Is there one more? There's got to be one more.
There's plenty. There's tons.
Let's pick one more, and we'll just go on it real briefly, just to close it out.
Well, you talked a little bit about housing and land use affordability. I mean, that's this legislature's goal the last several years is to solve this. So there's House Bill 1169, which limits downzoning, meaning a local government can't downsize the density in an area, meaning less or more acreage per unit. They want more units per acre. There's lot splits. House Bill, this is actually in 25, but House Bill 1308, which is lot splits, expands opportunities for qualifying residents to split their own lot. So basically kind of subverting local control and saying you can split your lot if these conditions exist. They're creating minimum lot sizes. It restricts many local governments from requiring large minimum lot sizes in certain residential areas. Again, they're trying to get more units out of minimal land. So there was a lot of bills like that, and those were actually all from 25. Now that I'm looking at it, was another one you had on mine?
There was one about insurance companies needing to put like a wildfire score or something on each house that they insure. I mean, wildfire, forest care and mitigation and stuff like that.
I think local governments, we work hard to keep our scores when it comes to like flooding and wildfires and stuff like that at a minimum because it does impact people's rates locally. Let me see if I can find something here. There was a House Bill. This was from last year, 2025, 1182, risk model use in property insurance policies, which took effect this year on July 1st. Before this law, many insurers already used proprietary wildfire risk scores to do certain things, to determine whether to insure a home, to set certain premiums, or decide whether to renew a policy. However, homeowners often didn't know their score or why they received it. So that new law, insurers must disclose your wildfire risk score. So that went into effect a couple days ago. So if an insurer uses a wildfire risk model or classification to underwrite a policy, set a premium, blah, 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 they must provide the homeowner with a wildfire risk score or classification. And you'll notice insurers must annually tell policyholders their wildfire risk score, what mitigation discounts are available, and how those discounts affect premium. The right to appeal, if you believe your score is inaccurate, you have the right to appeal it directly with your insurance company. The insurer must have an appeal process. So basically, it just kind of cracks the veil, if you will, as to how they set their score, which you can always go to another carrier if you don't like your premium. Mm-hmm. But I guess this is going to create a little bit more quote-unquote transparency in the industry.
I've heard from one insurance agent in specific that insurance companies cannot make money in the state of Colorado. And I wish when he'd said that, I wish I had probed him a little more, but it seems like, as far as his perspective was, like insurance companies cannot make money here. So what happens when we put so many burdens, and I can't believe I would be going to bat for an insurance company, but what happens, because ultimately who gets screwed? It's the homeowners, because insurance companies cannot make money in the state of Colorado. What incentive do they have to do business here?
Yeah.
And then what happens? They move out, and then either competition is reduced or the ability to insure your house is eliminated altogether. So suddenly you have that $750,000 house and you don't have an insurance to pay for it. It's like, anytime that there's a law that comes out that says, like, in its title, like affordability or, reducing costs or anything to do with insurance, it just raises my hackles, because it always seems like these legislators have a knack for coming up with a title and then enacting a law that does the exact opposite.
Yep.
It's like, so I don't know. I really don't have any commentary. I wish I did more than that, but it's like, just any time that, insurance is mentioned in a legislative process, it always makes my blood curdle a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously insurance companies are making money in Colorado, or else we wouldn't have insurance.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's getting more difficult because, and this is just a gut reaction, one, personally, getting insurance plus business and selling homes and stuff like that, it is more difficult to get insurance today. And to a certain degree, it's not how much your insurance is going to cost. Sometimes in certain areas, it's if you can get insurance. When you're in these classified WUIs, which is wildland urban interface areas, which is designated by fire fuels. If you're in one of those classifications, there's different types of WUI classifications, but if you're in one of those classifications, it's not how much your insurance costs. It's if. Now, obviously, if the price is high enough, any insurance company will insure you.
Sure.
But right now, it feels like sometimes if you can even get the insurance in these certain areas, which is difficult. Yeah. So, and again, that conversation should be between a homeowner and a insurance company. Well, you won't insure me. Is there anything I can do to reduce this? Well, yeah, if you go and you separate that house with 100 feet of buffer zone between you and the national forest, then we'll reduce your rate, because then even if there is a national or a forest fire, we feel confident that this unit will be spared if there's this many feet between you and the nearest fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there's and if you put fire resistant siding and roofing and you do all these things, then yes, we will reduce. That's a conversation between the homeowner and the insurance company. Because
but there's also a third party there, and that is the mortgage holder.
Mortgage company as well, yeah.
Because the mortgage holder will say, you have to have insurance. Okay, I'm trying to get insurance. They won't insure me, except it's an exorbitant rate. Well, no, you have to have insurance. Okay, well, you can't get insurance. We'll provide your insurance for you. And then the premium is like 4 times as much as you expected. So, again, it's this unholy trinity of credit, insurance, and lawyers. And who gets screwed in the end? I'm sorry, it's doom and gloom. We shouldn't be doom and gloom here.
It's the consumer.
But then the consumer does have the right to say that, as hard as it is, the consumer still has the right to say, I'm going to do everything in my power so that I own this outright. I don't have a mortgage. I can afford to replace damage, repair, I guess, if something would happen, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know how the lawyers figure into that picture. But if you just own it outright and you're taking good care of it and you're not being negligent, do you need a mortgage? No. Do you need insurance? Not if you can repair or replace. Mm-hmm. And so that, in the mind of the consumer, then, if that's the calculus, it's like, first of all, I got to do my best to maintain this well. Yeah. I need to do my own fire mitigation, because by and large, I don't want to have to replace my own house. And then in the end, if you've done all those things and the house just survives in perpetuity because you've taken good care of it, then you haven't spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and sent it to the insurance company.
Yeah, well, and again, there's market forces. Like, okay, maybe me building in the middle of the forest, I can't afford that. Because one, the house is expensive to begin with. 2, the insurance is through the roof. Mm-hmm. And, the property tax too. So at some point we have to say, no, I don't need that.
Yeah. Or maybe swallow the pill of, I don't have a right.
I don't have a right and I can't afford it.
Sort of property.
We often talk about how most people are house poor these days because not house poor. They have too big a house for their budget. They say generally you should be about 1/3 of your budget should be going towards housing expensive. And I think the average person is like 50 or 60% of their budget goes towards their house, which makes you a bit house poor. And then they wonder why they can't afford anything else. It's because they got into a mortgage they shouldn't have gotten into in the first place. They didn't understand economics. They didn't understand how much they'd be paying. They didn't understand insurance and property taxes. And the value of a house goes up, so you're going to be paying more in property taxes. So they're going to take more escrow. But if people understood that in high school, that you shouldn't be spending any more than 30% of your projected income on housing, we'd be in a lot better place.
Now, granted, a lot of high schoolers aren't going to really care. They're not going to pay attention. They're going to get an F in that class. But I think something like that would be such a great benefit for a huge majority, or maybe even, I mean, if 50% of the kids coming out of high school were financially literate, first of all, the consumerist economy would probably collapse. But I think overall, we'd be so much better off. So
it's good. All right, man. It's a good one.
All right.
Hour 40.
Hour 40? Maybe we better cut this one in half.
That's right. So, well, anything else for the good of the order?
For the good of the order. No.
There's no order to this, right?
There's no order.
So,
as we always say.
As we always say.